The moment the final out of that game was recorded, Shohei Ohtani did not celebrate. He did not participate in the post-game rituals that players go through after a hard-fought victory. He went to the hospital. That simple sentence, "he went to the hospital," carries a weight that every person connected to the Los Angeles Dodgers organization felt the moment it became known. A knee injury. An MRI. And then manager Dave Roberts stood in front of the cameras and delivered the news that the entire baseball world had been dreading since the moment Ohtani's hospital visit became public. A quick recovery will be difficult. 6 words that have reframed the entire trajectory of this Dodgers season in a single press conference statement. And simultaneously with the announcement of those MRI results came the confirmation that Ohtani has withdrawn from the All-Star game. The man who just weeks ago expressed his personal desire to participate in the Midsummer Classic, who wanted to compete when his body was demanding rest, has now been forced to withdraw not by organizational preference or schedule management but by a physical reality that an MRI scan has made undeniably clear. This is the most serious health development of Shohei Ohtani's career as a Dodger. And the implications of everything Roberts announced today extend far beyond the All-Star break. What was your immediate reaction when you heard that Ohtani had gone directly to the hospital after the game, and that the results of his MRI scan had prompted Roberts to say a quick recovery will be difficult? The phrase "quick recovery will be difficult" is doing enormous work in terms of what it communicates, and what it deliberately does not communicate. Roberts chose those words carefully. He always does. A quick recovery will be difficult does not say a full recovery is uncertain. It does not provide a specific timeline. It does not categorize the injury in terms that would allow the outside world to make precise calculations about when Ohtani will return to the field or in what capacity. But it communicates something essential that the Dodgers organization decided the baseball world needed to hear honestly rather than through the kind of cautious organizational language that teams typically use to protect information about player health. A quick recovery will be difficult means that whatever the MRI revealed is not something that resolves itself in a matter of days. It means there are weeks involved at minimum. And it means that the competitive plans the Dodgers had built around Ohtani's availability for the second half of the season need to be fundamentally reconsidered. Let's talk about the knee specifically and why this location of injury carries implications that go beyond even the serious immediate competitive concerns about Ohtani's availability. The knee is the foundational joint of an athlete's lower body. For a hitter of Ohtani's type, someone who generates enormous power through lower body rotation and whose ability to drive the ball to all fields depends on the stability and the strength of his legs, the knee is not just any joint. It is the structure through which all of that power generation flows. When a hitter's knee is compromised, it does not just limit his ability to run the bases or field his position. It affects the fundamental mechanics of how he swings a baseball bat. The rotational force that Ohtani applies through his swing, the ability to stay balanced through contact, the capacity to generate the exit velocity that makes him one of the most feared hitters in the entire league, all of it depends on a knee that is functioning at full capacity. And right now his knee is not functioning at full capacity. The MRI has confirmed it. From a two-way perspective, what does this knee injury mean for Ohtani's ability to continue pitching at the level he has been pitching at this season? This is the dimension of the injury that makes the situation even more complex than it would be for a conventional designated hitter or a conventional starting pitcher dealing with a similar diagnosis. Pitching mechanics also depend critically on lower body stability and lower body drive. The push off the rubber, the landing foot plant, the deceleration through delivery. All of these phases of a pitcher's motion place significant demands on the knee of the landing leg. For Ohtani to continue taking the mound with a knee injury that his own MRI has characterized as unlikely to resolve quickly is not just a question of his comfort level or his personal threshold for competing through pain. It is a question of whether pitching on a compromised knee creates the risk of a more serious and more lasting injury that could affect not just the rest of this season but his long-term ability to function as the two-way player that makes him the most extraordinary athlete in professional baseball. The All-Star Game withdrawal is the most immediately visible consequence of the MRI results, but it is also the least significant in terms of the long-term implications for this team. Ohtani wanted to participate. He expressed that desire publicly and sincerely. The fact that the MRI results forced him to withdraw tells you that whatever is happening with this knee is serious enough that even Ohtani's extraordinary competitive drive and his personal desire to compete in every possible format could not override the medical reality that the skin revealed. When Shohei Ohtani is forced to withdraw from a competition he wanted to participate in by medical necessity rather than organizational preference, you know that the situation is genuinely serious. He does not step away from competition easily. He never has. The All-Star withdrawal is not a precautionary rest decision. It is a medically necessary response to findings that the organization cannot in good conscience ignore. What does Robert's public disclosure of the MRI results and his willingness to characterize the recovery timeline as difficult tell us about the organizational approach the Dodgers are taking to this situation, and about what they believe the baseball world is owed in terms of transparency? This is a significant contrast from situations earlier this season when injury information about Ohtani was managed more carefully, and where the organization was later criticized for the gap between what they knew internally and what was communicated publicly. Robert's statement today, delivered directly and without the kind of softening language that organizations typically deploy around significant player health situations, reflects a conscious decision to be more forthcoming than comfortable. A quick recovery will be difficult is an honest statement. It is a statement that acknowledges the seriousness of the situation without catastrophizing it. And it is a statement that gives every stakeholder in this organization, the players, the coaches, the front office, and the fans, the information they need to calibrate their understanding of what this team is facing in the weeks ahead. How should the Dodgers be thinking about roster construction and competitive strategy during the period when Ohtani's availability is uncertain following this MRI news? This is the question that the front office woke up to this morning and will be working through for the foreseeable future. Every roster decision that was made this season was made with Ohtani's presence and his contributions as the foundational assumption. The trade acquisitions, the pitcher additions, the catching decisions, the bullpen construction. All of it was built around the certainty of Ohtani being on that field as both a pitcher and a hitter at the level he has been performing all season. When that certainty is disrupted by a knee injury that an MRI characterizes as unlikely to resolve quickly, the entire competitive architecture of this roster needs to be re-examined through the lens of what this team looks like in a world where Ohtani's contributions are limited or temporarily unavailable. Roberts said a quick recovery will be difficult. Ohtani withdrew from the All-Star game, and the baseball world is now processing the reality that the most extraordinary season any player in modern baseball has attempted is facing its most serious physical challenge. Whatever comes next for Ohtani, whatever the treatment plan, whatever the timeline, whatever the organizational decisions that follow in the weeks ahead, the foundation of what he has already accomplished this season cannot be taken from him. He pitched at a historic level. He hit at an elite level. He carried this franchise on his back through the most demanding dual role any player in the history of this sport has ever attempted. A knee injury cannot erase any of that. But it does mean that the road ahead is harder than anyone in Los Angeles was prepared to accept when that final out was recorded and Ohtani walked off the field and into a car that took him directly to the hospital. The next few weeks will tell us everything we need to know about the resilience of this team, and the resilience of the man at the center of it.